Thank you for coming along today to listen to me talk. My name is Gabriel Hughes. Indeed, I am the CEO of Metageni, and we are providing data analytics to help companies grow online. The focus is very much on e-commerce, but actually most of the brands we work with, brands like Ted Baker and Toolstation and Shoe, they actually have significant offline presence as well. So we're working with companies that really want to try and be data-driven in terms of how they optimize their e-commerce. And we're working with companies that, really feel they need support in terms of their data science and their capabilities and understand they've got huge potential in their e-commerce and analytics data that they're not fully leveraging. And we're going to use predictive analytics to help them succeed and to increase their ROI. I'm going to explain to you how we do that and give you some helpful context, try and make it pretty straightforward, pretty simple. This is not a technical presentation this morning, although you can come and find us on stand 175, I think it is, guys. Come and see us up there and ask if you do have more technical questions about what we do, want to learn a bit more about what I'm talking about today. What would you do if you had the power to predict the future? Most of us, when we ask that, you ask a question to a small boy, he'll say, get the lottery tickets. Get the numbers for the winning lottery and become a millionaire. Predict, buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin. All the things you could do, how powerful you would be if you could predict the future. And few of us predicted what's happened actually to e-commerce indeed in the last 18 months because few people saw this huge pandemic coming. And of course what's happened is e-commerce is now the norm, and even these companies that have a significant offline presence have to really think about how they can optimize and grow online. Everyone's piling in. And it's very difficult. But of course, the truth about predicting the future is that human beings do it all the time. We're always predicting the future. We predict that the sun's going to come up the next morning. I predicted there would be fairly heavy traffic on the Holloway Road as I drove down here today, because there always is. But I knew I should do that because I also predicted, thanks to the weather forecast, it was going to be very warm in here today, so I wanted to bring down a fan. So I put a fan in the back of the car and drove it down. And as predicted, my colleagues were delighted that I showed up with a fan. So we predict the future all the time, and the aim using techniques of machine learning and AI is to really try to do a little bit of that in a different way and apply it so that we can actually do it in a dynamic, live environment using technology instead of armies of human beings. So what would that mean in an e-commerce context? What would you do if you're trying to sell something online? How would you use your predictive capabilities to grow sales? And there's lots and lots of answers to that question. There are huge potentials in terms of operations and logistics before we even get into the business of actually selling to people. But what we're interested in is the way in which we observe the customers and potential customers who arrive on websites or on apps and who may interact with you over a period of time and then eventually buy something. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't. What do you do with those people? Can you anticipate in a way that helps you and helps them at the same time? And don't worry, guys, I'm not going to talk about chatbots this morning. This is not a chatbot presentation because for a while, everything e-commerce and AI was a chatbot. Nothing wrong with chatbots, it's just not what we do. So that's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to think about the offline world. Offline retail's been around a lot longer than e-commerce. So what happens in the offline world? Well, what you get is store assistants who are, very capable at observing what people do when they come into the store, right? And understanding what that means for the kinds of interventions, the kind of help and support they might need to complete their offline retail journey, okay? So you can see if someone's coming in and they're just with a friend and they're not really interested, or they're with their partner, or if they're just browsing through because they're taking time, or if they're in a rush because they really want to get that one item that they focused on, or indeed, they're trying to choose between a number of complex options. Perhaps they need an add-on, perhaps they need support in choosing that option, perhaps they're just undecided and they need reassurance and confidence around the features of some complex product. So by observing them on the basis of what you have seen previous customers doing, the store assistant can say, well, this person looks like the kind of person who is going to do this, and therefore I know what to do to help them complete their journey, help them complete their purchase mission. So surely, in a world that is now dominated by online retail, we can use machine learning and AI to do the same trick. So that's what we try to do. So what we're doing is we're building up journey information. Now, some of this is marketing information, and some of this is online actions on apps or websites, how people click, what people do. I put a big brain in the middle to skirt. I did say this wasn't a technical presentation, so yeah, that's the AI bit. We tried all kinds of machine learning approaches. Frankly, we use highly optimized classical approaches. We use classifiers at scale, and we have used other methods. We have used deep networks. We have used all kinds of techniques. They're not Markov chains before you ask, but we do have good classifier models that do what we need to do in this context well, and they do a good job of predicting whether or not someone's going to buy or not. I personally have been involved in trying to understand and model customer journeys for a very long time in my career. So my big credential was, and it's some time ago now, at Google, we in London developed and patented attribution modeling. So the attribution modeling functionality that you have in Google Analytics, and indeed the original positional attribution models, were developed by a team led by me in London. We got the patent on that. Well, I should say Google got the patent on that, not me personally. So I've been a little bit obsessed with this problem of understanding and predicting customer journeys and measuring customer journeys for quite a large part of my career. And so with Metageni, and we've been going for about 6 years now, with Metageni, I wanted to get this really right and actually apply the very latest in terms of machine learning and predictive power to really leverage that information about the customer journey and do something with it. So we predict the sale. OK, fine. What do we do with that? And when I say the sale, by the way, I mean, this is obviously the most binary outcome one could have: buy something or not buy something. But of course, what you do is you then look to predict different categories. Oh, they're going to buy something, but they're not going to buy this category. They're going to buy that category. Oh, they're going to buy that category, but they're not going to buy that brand. They're going to buy this brand. Oh, they're not going to buy anything, but they are going to go and look at something they bought previously and review their order status. Could be anything you wanted, where there's a simple goal that you can predict and analyze and therefore leverage to grow your e-commerce ROI. So we use that at customer level, at the level of individual, anonymized, I should say, customers, and we predict likelihood to buy. The very minimum is, propensity to buy, okay? You can then score them in real time, if you can collect that data in real time. And you can use that for targeting, for audiences, for marketing efficiency, for promotions. But better still, using simulations, you can actually get to the next best action. So you can say, OK, this model helps predict how various interactions, some of which are customer-driven, some of which are driven by the brand themselves, how those interactions can lead to the outcome that you want. Well, since we know that, and since we have huge computing power, we can actually simulate every possible action we could take and work out for each individual customer what the next best action is. And so, again, I will explain at a very high level how that's done. So let's say you've got some customers and you've got an anonymous ID associated with them. Got to be very careful now. We're using first-party data. The future is first-party data, right? I mean, brands do not want to have the big tech companies controlling their relationship with their customers. And you can't now come in with some third-party tracking cookie, right, and say, OK, let's just track this person. No, you need consent for that. And so this is all about anonymous first-party data between the brand and their customers that we're helping them leverage. So you identify the likelihood that they're going to buy something. And just to keep it nice and simple, I hope you can see this, we've got a range of scores that we could think of as, well, they correlate very heavily with the likelihood you're going to buy something. There's no guarantee. You're always going to find people who behave exactly the same way as someone who's going to buy, but at the very last minute, they don't. All right? So obviously, there's a limit to how far you can go. But guess what? The more data you've got and the better your models, the more accurate your predictions are. So we have to pay a lot of attention to training each model for each brand. This is very much a customized approach for every brand. It's no good having a generic one-size-fits-all model and expecting it to work. we have we did have a lot of travel clients before the pandemic came along. And, those companies, you would think that if you've got a model for a travel company, it could just as well apply to another travel company or another one. Forget about it. 4 different travel companies, all with very different profiles in terms of the user journey and in terms of the kind of things that you would predict from various models. So you have to train your models on each case, on a case-by-case basis. But what do you do with it? Well, I think it's a little bit like politics, a little bit like what the politicians do when they're trying to win an election. They don't target the opposition's voters. They don't even target their own voters some of the time. The people they go after are the so-called floating voters, the people in the middle, the people who might need a little bit of a nudge to get over the line. These people are the people who are marching into the shop, determined to buy something, they know what they want. These people, they're not really interested. But these people are the people who may need a little bit of a nudge. Imagine the upside. Just work this out. If you give your potential customers £10 off or £20 off on a time-limited offer, you will get increased conversions. But of course, you can't do that all the time because you'll lose money, you'll lose margin. So there's this trade-off. Imagine now you give the promotion to these people, the floating voters, the people who are on the borderline who need a nudge, but you don't actually give it to these people because they've already decided what they want. They don't need that nudge to get them over the line. You can see the ROI benefits of doing that if you're an e-commerce provider, okay? But there are lots of different ways you can use these kinds of signals to actually optimize your customer journey. So in order to figure out what's the best intervention, if we think of an individual customer then, we can sort of simulate different scenarios. What happens if we send them an email? What happens if we, try to offer them an upsell opportunity on another product? What will it do to their propensity score across different categories of product? And what we're really doing is saying, imagine if this customer who looks like this looked the same but had this difference. What do we know from all the other customers about the change in their likelihood to convert? So we're trying to make a cause and effect inference from our model, effectively, aren't we? So that's what we do, and we get an idea, therefore, of the shift in the score. And this can help with problems like attribution. In fact, we use exactly this technique for attribution. We're able to say, this is the contribution of these clicks in this complex journey to the sale. So that after the fact, really, I shouldn't have spent quite so much on this particular search campaign, and I can afford to spend a little bit more on this particular affiliate campaign. So you can use it for after-the-fact optimization like that. And then to actually do the simulation, well, you just have to do the hard work and, let the machine do this, of trying every different possible strategy that you could take and seeing what the resultant change in prediction would be under each strategy to calculate all the different alternatives, and then pick the one with the highest lift to decide the next best action for each customer, all right, in order to achieve your goal of, in this case, increasing sales. Now, the truth is, okay, you need to be a bit cognizant of the cost. Obviously, the action that's going to massively increase your propensity to buy is giving the product away. You don't want to do that. So you do need to factor in the benefit against the cost. So there is an ROI calculation on top. But nonetheless, you can see how through repeated simulation on this kind of data, one can indeed increase your sales, increase your ROI, whether it's about more efficient marketing or whether it's about incremental sales. This technique has proven really, really powerful. And we've had great success with it. So this is actually my last slide. So I've probably left lots of time for questions. I don't know what I'm on in terms of timing. Got no idea. Got a few minutes. 15 minutes? 15 minutes. I've got to stand up here for 15 minutes. I can do it. I can do it. I tend to time my slides on the basis of like 3 minutes per slide. I think in 20 minutes, I talk too much. It'll be fine. And here I am. And I've got 15 minutes left. So you better have some good questions lined up. Or maybe I'll just spend a long time on this particular slide. So this is AO.com, right? Most of you have probably heard about them. They're now the largest, notice how I'm slowing down, they're now the largest online electrical goods retailer in the UK. They have grown like the clappers during lockdown. It was because we had a relationship with AO.com that I rushed out and bought a bread maker at the start of the pandemic because they told me we're selling out of bread makers. So I thought, well, I better get on and buy a bread maker. So I did that, making good bread, by the way. They just grew hugely. It was TVs, it was freezers, it was bread makers, and then actually it carried on as people wanted to upgrade their internal entertainment systems and so on. And their challenge now for a massive brand like AO.com, based up in Manchester, is to sustain that growth. And that's why they're looking to these capabilities of building incrementality through this kind of predictive modeling. So what they did was, they've essentially used our technology to figure out personalized offers and changes on their website, responding to customer behavior, training models on a whole history of customer behavior. And we're really grateful to them because, as I explained a minute ago, we did have a big shift in travel companies who went like that. We had these 4 travel companies who all just had to throw up their hands thanks to the pandemic and back off. But we got this big increase in our e-commerce business from the likes of AO, who were very serious about working with us to invest in continuously improving this capability and extending it across their different activities and their different categories, okay? So we've used this for attribution, we've used this for personalized offers and similar kinds of interventions on the website, and they have huge ambitions to do this going forward, and they say lots of nice things about them. We have been working with them since 2017. So, that's one case study. We have numerous other ones, but this technology, hopefully I've explained it in a way which is very simple. You can sort of see what it is. It sounds straightforward. But when we talk about machine learning, which is of course what we're talking about when we talk about AI, and we have to use AI, right? Because everyone expects to talk about AI. But when we talk about machine learning, what we're really doing is trying to solve very domain-specific problems and very specific challenges. And even when you get very narrow, as I explained earlier, you still need to retrain on a case-by-case basis if you want to get the performance from those models. So anyone who knows anything about machine learning knows, get the domain right, get the data right, focus on solving a very singular and well-defined problem, and you'll have some chance of success. So we've tried to make it our ambition to be the best at predicting customer journeys. It's very difficult to do at scale. We have to do it with a toolkit that we've developed, but also working really, really closely with our partners, with our brands, with the clients we work with, in terms of integrating their data, adapting the models to their particular requirements, deciding which goals they want to go after, deciding how they want to leverage the model going forward, explaining it to the internal stakeholders, integrating it with their live e-commerce systems, integrating it with their data systems and their data, building up a whole capability in that way, because each case is different. But we're getting there. We're getting there. So that's my presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it. You can come and see us on stand 175. I think I'm out of time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.